Thanks for checking out this video. If you get to the end and liked it, then subscribe. Bell notification. Give the video a thumbs up. Oh! Hello. Someone had said on my Instagram, it was like, I want to see more Watson in your videos. Sherlock takes up all the screen time. Yeah, it's because Watson's 100 pounds. Can't pick him up. If you want Watson content, you stay on my Instagram. If you want Sherlock Beetle French-eyed content of him being cute while being a little naked mole rat, then this is where you come. Watson's also really done with my shit, I think. Sherlock doesn't seem too phased, but I can tell Watson's like, bitch, you've been like interrupting my sleeping and napping schedule for 3 weeks now. What is happening? I need this to stop. You need to go back to work. And I'm like, nah, no, I enjoy sitting at home in my PJs and working. So, yeah. Anyways, last Sunday, I just needed a break. There's nothing wrong. I'm actually okay mentally. Everyone's in panic now, and I'm always like, this is what my brain is always like. But you hoard toilet paper when you do that. I just, like, live like I normally do. But, yeah, I just needed a bit of a break, and, like, so I'll review the videos this week. And I kind of regret doing that now because I have read so much. Just because I've been working from home. I don't have the commute and any of that sort of stuff. And like, you're not going out and grocery shopping and whatever the same way we were before. So I've just been able to read a ton. And I've been able to get into books a whole lot more. It's just given me, this is a good time to be like detaching from the world and like just reading some interesting books. So I'm going to have to do a slightly different format this one. There are some that I just don't really have anything to say about them. They're just like, I read them, they were this stars and whatever. And then there's some I want to do a little bit more review on. So that's how we're going to do it now. I need to put you down. Please, can I put you down? Or are you going to cry? Why are you leaning into me? I'll finish this and then we'll go for a little walkie, okay? So starting off, I read The Call of the Rift Vale, book 2 of the Call of the Rift series by J. Waller. Why won't my sleeve... There we go, much better. This is the sequel to Call of the Rift Flight, which I read last year and really, really enjoyed. It is definitely Indigenous cast, and it is set, I think I've come to the conclusion that it's in the future, very dystopian, kind of prehistoric-y setting future. But climate change has kind of just done its due diligence on this planet, and these communities are, it's just kind of like going back to like before we had all these like very colonial country structures and everything like that. And our main characters are, it's really interesting watching them interact between all of these different tribes and communities, because some of them seem nomadic, whereas others are quite static. I definitely want to read this again though, when I, like right after I read The Flight, because I feel like a lot of it did come back, whereas I think a lot of sequels to a lot of traditional books, like there'll be bits and pieces or a character that like gets more light in the sequel, but I feel like just a lot of the actual plot and conflict, and there's just a large cast of names that I'd really, really be interested to reread this, and I'm sure I would pick up on some more stuff. But I found it really, really interesting. I really like that this series has this main character who does not find her like one true soulmate at the very beginning and then like never interacts with another man again. I feel like we've like, as a society of readers in this time, that's why the Graceling was such like iconic thing, was like, oh my god, a main female character who has sex with someone and doesn't end up marrying them. Like, what is happening here? Because that's just like, that's just the real world. So I really appreciate that, and yeah, I just really enjoy the main character. I didn't know how many books this was going to be in the series, but Jay, I was on Instagram messaging her, said there's going to be 5 total. So I'm just going to keep watching them because, yeah, there's a lot more, I feel like, violence and plotting in this one, whereas I feel like the other one was more like finding out a lot of the political conflicts that are going to cause this, but there was a lot of like actual violence in this. And there's a lot of like, it's been interesting jumping back and forth between a lot of these different communities, because some of them hold like these like old like beefs with this other community because, you know, they did something like this before, and like now all of these communities that were once divided are kind of slowly being pushed together, and there's like a challenging of power and all this just really interesting stuff. But I feel like it's, I appreciate it more because it's not in this like traditionally strict colonial structure where everyone has their position and like these borders and geographies. I don't feel that in this. So this was really, really nice, and I'm really excited to keep going with this series. I really wish more people would read it. Yeah, I want to, I think I'll do it later on this year, probably in the summer or something like that. Or no, maybe I should do closer to the fall because there's like more fallish weather, I feel like, in this one. Anyways, I want to sit later on this year, read them back to back. But I really, really enjoyed this. It's like a 4 or 5 out of 5 stars. I can't remember what I rated it on Goodreads, but I really enjoyed this series. I wish more people would read it. We get more information on like sort of the powers and everything like that. And I also read The Deep and Dark Blue by Nikki Smith. It's a graphic novel. I love it because it has the main characters are go into hiding for a reason, and they go into hiding as women. They are boys, but one of them decides at the end that they don't want to, that this is them. And the brother goes, okay, well, this is you. You're still, you're still my sibling. I really liked the message. I did, however, have issue with the images themselves, like the panels and everything are beautiful. I love the coloring especially, but I feel like there was a lot of panels that didn't know what was trying to be portrayed and there wasn't any text. So I feel like there's a bit of a disconnect from the stories and the characters and their actions from the actual beautiful design. So I think that maybe needs to be lined up a little bit more. Maybe some panels could have just been deleted. Some of the things were like, erg, ag, and I was like, what are you erging and ahing about? I don't understand. What is this point? But, so I feel like that could have been streamlined and kind of edited a little bit different. I finally picked up my Arc of Strangers by Margaret Haddix. This was this was actually going to be my April TBR, but I fit it in this month, and I read it. I enjoyed it. I'm definitely going to read the sequel. There's parallel universes, and it was an enjoyable middle grade read. I think it's a fun, spooky middle grade read that's probably leaning a bit more to YA, so if you're a YA reader and interested in middle grade, but find some of the content can be juvenile, I think it's closer to the YA spectrum, so definitely give this a go. I read The Fountain of Seville by Ruta I don't know how to say her last name, I'm sorry, but it was a really wonderful read. It hit New York Times bestsellers list for a reason. I really like this sort of historical fiction. There's no big hype conflict where someone gets, shot and like the characters come back to life. There's none of that shit. It's literally just about what it is about. It is in Spain during that, I don't want to say iconic era, but like during that era where they were kind of run by a dictator. And I had heard a little bit about the story because at the end of this book it brings up a specific article, I think it was from NPR, that was talking about how the government was being sued for children going missing in Spain. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And I remember reading up on that, and that was kind of the last I'd heard about it. So it brings it back up that we're talking about when we had this kind of government take over, and then the people who were rebelling against that government had their children taken away and sold off. And it's very interesting, and it's just a story, a family that is affected by that in a variety of ways. It was really interesting. If you like, honestly, I think if you're someone who enjoyed The Book Thief, like the structure of it, the pacing, that sort of stuff, I think this is one that you would be quite interested in, and I'm definitely just need to still, I've been trying to do this for a while, get through the back catalog of her stuff, and it was definitely an enjoyable read. I also read Other Words for Home, which is a middle grade in-verse novel about a girl who immigrates to the United States from Syria with her pregnant mother. Her brother has been left behind as well as her father. Her brother, however, is fighting with the rebels against the Syrian government. It is short, it is sweet, it is not super graphic or violent. It just shows like this process of this girl coming to this country, learning this new language, her mother learning this new language. Luckily, they have family here that can help her, but it's going to school in a society that is growingly becoming more and more comfortable with showing off their Islamophobia and their xenophobia and targeting people who come here and targeting people who come to Canada, to the United States to get away from that, and then we target them for getting away from that as if they are that. So it's really short, sweet, to the point. I think it's a good written in verse book. And I feel like I was concerned that it was going to be a little bit like that Romeo and Juliet in-verse retelling that I read last year, but I feel like it did a lot better job of tackling some of the issues than that one, and I really enjoyed it. I also read The Deep oh my god, I'm blanking on authors' names. I read too many authors. Alma Katsu, I think it is. Something like that. It is pitched as the Titanic horror story. I'm not a horror reader myself. Maybe it is under a specific definition of horror, a horror book, but it's just more of the Titanic paranormal ghost story than a horror book. It's really not. I enjoyed these two timelines. It gets very much more paranormal at the end, but it's much more historical fiction structured. We are on a boat, the sister boat of the Titanic after it's sinking during the war. We go on as a nurse, and then we're switching back and forth to the same person that is on the sister ship was also on the Titanic, and it's their story kind of switching back and forth and how they ended up the way that they ended up because they got messed up mentally. And yeah, it was an interesting read, actually. I really did enjoy it, but if you're going in thinking it's a horror story on the Titanic, it's not. It's definitely not, but it is a good read. I definitely enjoyed it, and I think that's probably why it has a lower-ish rating on Goodreads, because it was pitched incorrectly. It didn't hold any really horror elements in my brain that I think of as horror. So it was an enjoyable, but just go in. It's like a Titanic multiple timeline ghost paranormally, not horror. I finally picked up Sudden Death by Alvaro Enrique. This is a book that I've owned for a little while. I think I'm going to unhaul it now that I have finally read it. I've owned it for I think like 2 years now or something like that. But it is essentially trying to explain like the conflicts of Europe through a tennis match. There's a bunch of random, really weird, interesting information in this that I never knew. That I don't even know what you have to do to like find out this random information. But it was interesting. It was cool. I just don't know what to do with this book or any of the information though. It was an interesting book that I think what you've read it once, you're like, okay. All right. Like, this is not a book where I think I could ever find someone who's like, it's my favorite book. But it is an interesting book, and the content itself is very weird, pretty unique, and I don't think I will have ever read it or will ever read the content anywhere else. So I'll definitely give it that. Yeah, it was an interesting read. If your library has it, I wouldn't knock you for picking it up. I had a couple DNFs in the past couple weeks, one being Markswoman by Rita Mehrotra. I really wanted to like this. She's a Canadian-based author. I got to page 50. I forced myself. I did not like any of the characters, the cast, the setting, the writing, any of it, unfortunately. I also DNF'd House of Salt and Sorrows. I got to page 130, I think. Again, struggling, couldn't find what the appeal of it was supposed to be. Everyone was telling me it was like gothic-y. I just didn't like any of the characters, again, too. The dad especially did not like him. And then I also, sadly, DNF'd Empress of All Seasons. Again, I think I got to force myself to page 50. It was just not enjoying it. And I'm really kind of heartbroken. A, because I own this and the cover is really pretty, actually. And I bought this at full price. But I had really high expectations for this one for some reason. So, unfortunately, it just wasn't for me. I also did quite a few rereads. I reread Beneath the Citadel by Destiny Soria. I feel like I enjoyed it more the first time that I read it than the second time around, just because I knew what was going to happen and everything. But I think the star of this book is still the cast. I really enjoyed the cast and the characters, and there's asexual and bisexual characters. I also did a reread of Love Boat Taipei, because we are doing a group read of it in the TBR and Beyond group next month. I'm really, really excited. And yeah, I still really, really enjoy this book, and I can't wait for the sequel, companion, whatever it's going to be, to follow these characters. I'm hoping we're going to get to see her go to school, or we're going to get, like, her sister going to the Love Boat Taipei place, right? Either way, I'm excited for it. I love the cast, love the characters. I've reviewed this book on here before. I finally did a reread of Gideon the Ninth. This one, I guess, kind of deserves more of a review, because first time I was like, I don't know what to do with this. I love this cast. Like, this cast is just awesome, and, like, the weird setting is creepy, and there's just so much, like, what the fuck is going on for, like, the whole book. I really enjoy it. I can't remember what author it is, but it's someone that I follow, and I keep getting notifications when they tweet, was, like, live tweeting them reading the book and being like, oh my god, I'm in love with the character, and a bunch of authors were like, oh, I'm already taking her. So I'm really I'm so excited for Harrow the Ninth to come out, especially. Now that I've reread it, I can appreciate Harrow so much more, and I'm so excited. I also did a reread of two of my favorite books, The Kiss Code and The Bride Test by Helen Huang. I'm really, really sad. I saw when I just randomly went to look for some reason, that The Heart Principle, the third book in this, I think it's supposed to be a trilogy, has been pushed back to 2021. They already did, like, a big cover reveal on, like, Entertainment Weekly and whatever, and, like, I'm so disappointed. I'm just sad. I guess I'll just have to keep rereading the Kiss Quote. But I think someone said that somewhere that, like, she's having mental health struggles right now, so, like, I get that. As long as it's not, like, for some stupid reason, like, oh, we wanted, you know, because, like, it wasn't like, oh, we're pushing it to, like, you know, the end of the summer when people will be, you know, back at work, or bookstores, whatever, will be open with, like, the pandemic. No, it was, like, a year and something pushback, and I was like, what the heck? What the heck happened? So I'm sad, but I love these books. I'll just keep rereading them and wait very impatiently. I also binged The Shadows Between Us by Tricia Levenseller. Honestly, I'm gonna reread this in April. She is coming to the TBR and Beyond group. It is a group read, but oh my god, it's so good. It is absolutely a Slytherin romance. The characters are so flawed, but I love them so damn much. This whole thing is just so good. The main character especially. Like, the romance is good, but the main character especially. I have an issue with Tricia Levenseller writing books so like, taking her time between them. I mean, she writes, like, one book a year at least. But, like, I get attached to her characters, and then I just have nothing. Because I always read her books in, like, a day. And then I have nothing. I just have to keep waiting for the next one. So I'm excited though, because the next one is a duology. I'm hoping to go back to that, like, I mean, it's not going to be, but like, The Daughter of the Pirate King just did shit to me, and this one is so good. It's so freaking good, and I'm so excited to reread this. I'm so excited for her to come in the group, and I'm so excited for other people to read this. I'm not a Slytherin, but I can at least appreciate that this is a Slytherin book. I also read The Life Below by Alexandra Monier. This was, I think it's the wrap-up to the final, is it The Life Below? Yes, the final 6. So we continue exactly where we're off. I can't really explain it without spoiling the ending of the final 6, so I'm not going to. But it picks up the same cast and the characters. We're just, instead of being like on planet space training, we're actually in space. So it's a bit change of setting. But I think it's quick. I do wonder why this was split into 2 books. It could have definitely been just one single book. Though I'm annoyed with that in my head because both of the covers are really pretty. So I'm waiting for the book to go up on book outlets so I can buy it and put it on my shelf beside the final 6. Because it's a fun, light sci-fi, and I will definitely reread it, and the covers are very pretty. I also read Upright Women Wanted. This is a novella from, I think it's Tor.com, by, I think it's Sarah Gailey. I've read something by her before. I was on it, and I think I'm kind of the same way at this point, that I just don't think I jive with her writing all that much. I feel like, I mean, it's a novella, but you can, like, get me attached to things in a novella. Other Words for Home is a kind of perfect example of a short book that can still, like, attach to you. But The Upright Women Wanted, I thought I was like, oh, I'll get more attached to it because, like, they're traveling librarians. But it felt kind of flat for me. I love that there's rep in there, especially for the time, it's in a time period where they're kind of, you know, it's not a great time period to be out, you know what I mean? But, yeah, there was just a disconnect in a lot of it, and nothing of it really kind of attached to me, unfortunately. I also picked up, finally, and read Strangers by David Robertson, and unfortunately it really felt flat for me, like, really, really flat. I was hoping to really get into it because the trilogy is out. I actually really like the covers, but it just, I don't know. Like, I don't know what to do with this book. Like, I'm really happy it's in Indigenous owned voices. We don't have enough of that here. I also read Supernova by Cass Morgan. This is the sequel, and I think wrap up to Supernova. Another book that I'm really excited. I'm going to watch for it to go up on book outlet so I can grab it. But again, it was a pretty clean wrap up. Don't know that I can really explain the plot because it would spoil everything that happens at the end of Supernova, but like, the same conflict and cast and everything is continuing on, and then there's this like big show off between like this evil space corporation that's trying to like take over everything. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think the wrap up was a little too clean for my liking, but I still enjoy that series. I also finally picked up The Lifters by Dave Eggers. This, finally, I had the arc of it for forever. It's fun, it's cute, it's sweet, it's to the point, it's nothing too deep. The conflict's not like this big existential crisis or anything like that. The cast isn't super big. The world is sort of set up but not super specific, but it is our world, so you can kind of fill in the blanks as you need. And yeah, the town has a bunch of sinkholes, and people are trying to figure out why that is, and our main character is, you know, his family's going through stuff. His father has been laid off, and he's just kind of working wherever he can find work, so he's not home an awful lot, and his mom is in a wheelchair, so there's representation there. So she's kind of struggling. It seems with some depression as well. But then there's this town that used to have carousels, and there's like this underground world of people trying to fill in the sinkholes and everything. It's fun. It's cute. It's definitely a middle grade read. And yeah, it was just a fun read. I also picked up Stolen Time by Danielle Rollins. I'm definitely going to read the sequel. The book got better as it went on. When I started, I was like, this isn't kind of everything I wanted it to be. It's much more romance-centered than I knew it was going to be, but like there didn't seem to be kind of anything else going on. But our main character is, she's, trapped, I guess, in the 1913 in Seattle, and her mother's trying to force her to marry someone. It's part of a con, basically. And then she meets someone, Ash, from New Seattle, and they're dealing with time travel, and like the science sort of behind it is explored more as it goes on, which is what piqued my interest more and more. And then we get to this whole kind of like conning, so believing someone's conned you as the conner thing near the end, which I really, really enjoyed. So I'm definitely going to read Twisted Fates ASAP, and yeah, I actually really enjoyed it. It's one that I think I'm glad I gave more than my 50 pages before I decided if I wanted to continue it or not. So definitely enjoyed lots of time travel. My struggle with this, I think, was I don't understand why it was set in Seattle. It just seems like a very kind of like, oh, we set in Seattle cause, and like they didn't kind of expand on Seattle or anything like that all that much, which was I was kind of looking forward to that, which it just didn't have. Okay, and I think this is the last book that I've read in the past 2 weeks. The 13th Tale by Diane Setterfield. I wanted to leave this to the end, just give it a bit more time. But so this reminds me a lot, the structure of the book, like how everything is laid out, not the actual story, but the structure of the 7 husbands of Evelyn Hugo, of this older kind of mysterious, ominous woman who doesn't talk to society, all of a sudden invites this kind of unknown author in to write down their story, and then we find out shit. So we switch back and forth between like the journalist writing the story, and always the story connects with her life, the way it does with, Evelyn Hugo's story. And so we're switching back and forth between these different time periods, and there's a lot of family secrets and everything like that. But it's especially that this author wrote this book that was originally, like, when it was like early released, was like called like the 13th Tale or something like that, but then they scrapped it and retitled it because they didn't have a 13th Tale, so it's always been like, what happened to it? And it's like, oh, well, this is the 13th Tale, right? And it was just never actually put in the actual story, and I liked it. It's a very, this is something I'd come back and reread, and I feel like there's a different part of it that I would connect to at different times in my life. I know a bunch of people were like, oh my god, it's one of my all-time favorite books, and I can definitely see why. I wish I could find, like, a special pretty edition of this somewhere. Something like that. I feel like that's something I'd treasure an awful lot, like this being the spine, or the sprayed pages, or something like that. It's just a really... It was a book that took me out of, like, this shitty world right now. And I don't want to say anything about the ending. I feel like it's kind of... it's a really solid, beautiful ending. And I think readers should enjoy it while reading the book. They get to the end. It's kind of a reward at the end, almost, I feel like. So, I enjoyed this. I liked all the cast, the characters, the story. I didn't guess what was coming. There was a lot of mystery. It kept me intrigued going through the whole time. I liked both of the timelines, which is something I struggle an awful lot with a lot of books. And yeah, I loved the way that the 2 timelines connected together. It was really, really nice. So, absolutely loved this book. So those are the books that I read in the past couple weeks. Let me know in the comment section down below if you've read any of these books, what your thoughts were, and what you read the past, 2 weeks. I'd love to know. I will link all of these books in the description box down below. I will also link all of my social media. If you follow me, I will follow you back, and stay inside.